Okay, testing. Now let's go to the part 2 of our chapter 10 video, in which this time we're going to talk about the types of elasticity and how we're going to represent the different types of elasticity of demand. Okay, now make sure this video you pay much more attention because this video and the next video are going to be the most important videos of this chapter. 呢兩條片咧最多人錯就係呢啲嘢啦。OK，they use the wrong method and the wrong way of thinking, so they get the wrong answer. OK，好嘛，好嚟啦，唔講廢話啦。Now, first of all, we talk about elasticity of demand, right? When we talk about elasticity of supply, it will be very different. OK，嗱唔好撈亂啊，demand 嚟㗎，好嘛？Now, when it comes to the representation of normal elasticity of demand, right? Remember the trick. We draw a normal demand curve. The slope is always -1. Okay, no funny business. 我哋唔好轉佢嘅 slope. We always use a very normal looking downward sloping demand curve. Okay, 好嘛? Now here, this is the midpoint. Now around 啦，阿 Sir，我使唔使攞把間尺度啊？唔使嘅，around the midpoint。OK，嗱，點解要咁分咧？Very important. After we get the midpoint, then the demand curve, we can determine the price elasticity to be like this. Anywhere above the demand curve is what we call elastic demand. ED larger than 1. Anything below midpoint would be the inelastic region where ED smaller than 1. 好啦，咁即係咩意思啊？ The midpoint, this one, it means that ED is exactly equals to 1. Okay, now boys, please write it down. 嗱，我喺條片度唔再解啦，好嘛？我上堂解過啦。But remember, in actual work, okay, besides the extreme cases, slope is irrelevant. 記住啊，個 slope 係完全唔關事。Besides the next three, okay, besides the next three. 嗰三個 extreme case 先關事嘅 ，OK 嗱，you see, except the extreme cases do not change the slope. This is my reminder for you. OK 好嘛？好啦，嗱呢個啦，記咗佢。Don't use slope. 你本書或者你啲 tutor, they may use slope to teach you. Don't. You will die miserably. OK， 考評局出咗啦，你攞 slope 你係死緊㗎。OK。EAA already know how to kill those kind of people. 已經出過幾次㗎啦，唔好再中招啦，好嗎？OK，嗱 what about when will slope be relevant? Three cases, three extreme cases. OK，我哋當溫書算啦，都唔解太多啦，好嗎？For perfectly elastic demand, OK, of course this is P, this is Q, are perfectly horizontal. This one ED equals to infinite, 係咪 perfectly elastic 啊嘛？好啦，倒轉啦 ，perfectly inelastic. You have seen this already in our chapter 8 and chapter 9. Basically, it's a fixed demand in which ED equals to 0，係咪？你見啦，變唔到啊，係咪？ There is no change in quantity, no matter how price changes。好啦，最難係呢個啦 ，unitarily elastic demand。OK，嗱呢個咧。都幾難畫得好靚㗎 ，OK？嗱，even I cannot draw the most beautiful unitarily elastic demand curve for you，OK？好嘛，我哋望望啦。It actually looks 嗱，跟住終於啦，係咪 ？You see, I always mention demand curve. This time we have a real demand curve, so to speak. 原來咧呢個就係啦，OK？This one 嗱，小心啲點寫喎。When we talk about unitarily elastic demand, don't say this is ED equals to 1. 你唔好就咁講 ED 係1喎，錯嘅喎 ，OK? Because this point is also ED equals to 1. But this is not unitarily elastic demand, OK? 好啦，咩叫 unitarily elastic demand 啊？OK? 嗱，it means that ED equals to 1 for whole curve， 成條 curve 都係啊。Don't just say ED equals to 1. Is ED equals to 1 for whole curve？ 成條 curve 都係 ED 第日啊。Okay, so here, no matter which point you are talking about, ED equals to 1. Okay, that's the definition of unitarily elastic demand. Okay, 好嘛，記住啊，提多次啊 ，do not change the slope unless in these three extreme cases. Okay, 好嘛，好，now let's try to summarize this video and the last video with a lot of actually not a lot, right? Just some past papers. Okay, 好嘛，now for example here you see 1997. It says the price elasticity of demand for Hong Kong Cross Harbour Tunnel service would decrease. 佢話啦，幾時個 ED 會跌啊 ？Let's see. Okay. The fee raised from 10 to 30. Now, just now, if you remember from the graph, the higher the price, actually the ED should increase. So not the answer we want. 我哋要跌啊嘛，係咪？ Western Harbour Crossing is opened. 好啦，西隧同紅隧有咩關係啊？ We call them substitute. Now with more substitute, then the ED should increase. Not the answer we want, 係咪啊？ Eastern Harbour Crossing is closed. 咁咪倒轉咯，係咪啊？ We don't have substitute. Therefore, elasticity of demand will drop. Exactly the answer. 好啦，最後啦 hydrofoil surface 係咪 between Tsuen Wan and Wan Chai? So this one, basically, again, more substitute, then ED increases. Not the answer we want. 好嘛， now, what about the next question? When the supply of a commodity increases, its price may rise. 嗱，我哋慢慢嚟啊。首先呢 here, when supply increases, what happens? Price decreases. Now we need price to rise. Therefore, we need to cancel this effect. 係咪？ We need to cancel this effect out. 我哋要揾一樣嘢係 price 會升嘅，係咪？ To cancel the effects. Let's see. The first one, when demand is perfectly inelastic, okay? 嗱 A 同 B 咧都幾難嘅。So let's use a graph. Perfectly inelastic. This one, demand. 我哋試下啦。When supply increases, so this is S1 increases to S2. What happens to the price? Let's see. P1 drops to P2. So A not quite correct. 見唔見啊？係跌咗嘅噃。啊，咁 A 唔啱，B 一定啱啦，係咪啊？ Since they are the opposite. Unfortunately, no. 我哋平時咧諗住倒轉其實啱啊，今次唔係喎。Here, demand perfectly elastic. S1, S2 increases. What happens to the price? It remains unchanged. 都唔中啊 ，OK？ 好嘛 ？So let's see which one is correct. The price of its complement decreases. 我哋諗諗啦。Price decreases, QD increases by law of demand. If they are complement relationship, demand increases. When demand increases, price increases. So yes, this may cancel out the effect of an increase in supply. So C is the correct answer. 得唔得？ Okay, so this one. Now, the main point is A and B. 我哋想睇 A 同 B 啫。好嘛？好啦， now what about the next question? Now, which of the following would increase the elasticity of demand of MTR? 我哋要 increase the cutting of bus lines 係咪啊？而家啦，冇咗巴士 ，it means that the substitute would decrease with less substitute or fewer substitute, right? What happens? Elasticity of demand would drop. Not the answer we want. Decrease in fee. 啱啱講咗啦 refer to the graph. Lower the price, lower the ED, not the answer we want. 好嘛 The opening of a new line of KCR running routes similar to those of MTR. 假設而家啦，開多條線 more substitute, meaning it is easier to change. 誒咁啱題題都 C 嘅，係咪 A decrease in the operating cost 嗱，呢個關咩事咧 ？Operating cost, this one, supply. If you remember from chapter 8 and chapter 9, right? Supply increases, so price decreases. When price decreases, ED also decrease, 係嘛 ？Not the answer we want. 好嘛 ？OK, now next one. Increase in demand for good wine result in 10% change in price and QT。好啦，嗱呢個慢慢嚟啦。嗱，let's learn the trick how we do this kind of question。OK， 好嘛？嗱，原來咁啊。Now demand increases, which means two things happen. Price increases and Q increases，係咪？應該係咁噶嘛？ Now it says price increased by 10%, while the quantity increased by 5%. Now what do we call this? 我哋見啦，quantity 慢過去喎 ，quantity is lower than price. We call this inelastic. But now we have a problem. Inelastic what? Now let's copy down the trick. 記住啊 ，whenever demand change here, if we have a change in demand, then we will have no conclusion about elasticity of demand. Why? 原來係咁啊 The definition of elasticity of demand is the responsiveness of QD in response to price along the same demand curve 係同一條 demand curve 之下。Now demand changed. So do we know what happens to the same demand curve? No， 我哋係唔知同一條 curve 之下發生咩事㗎。Now therefore, this one definitely we can tell nothing about demand. In fact, this is an inelastic supply. OK， 原來呢條啦係一個 inelastic supply。嗱，所以記住啦 ，boys the trick demand changed, therefore no conclusion about ED, only conclusion about supply. Okay, ES. Here we know it is inelastic supply. Now we will talk about that in later videos. Okay, but let's see. The answer should be here. D. D will be the answer. Okay, D will be the answer. 我哋遲啲你明啦。When you have watched the last video, you will understand this answer. OK， 好嘛，好嚟到繼續啦。Now, which of the following would reduce the ED for transport service of Airport Express? OK， 機場快線啊，好嘛？嗱 ，there are more airport bus。喂，多咗巴士路線 ，substitute increases, therefore ED increases, right? Not the answer we want. 好啦，第二個啦 ，vans are not allowed， 唔可以去 pick up 佢喎，知咩意思啊 ？Let's substitute, OK? Exactly the answer we want. 而家唔可以唔可以載客啊嘛 ，so you can't take a van, you can only take Airport Express， 係咪 ？The fare， 哇！呢度講十幾廿萬次啦，係嘛？唔解啦，呢個唔解啦。The maintenance cost of train increases， 即係咩意思啊 ？When you see cost, it means that supply decreases, therefore price price increases, therefore ED increases. Not the answer we want. OK， 係嘛 ？Not too difficult. Now let's look at one more page and to end this video. OK, one more page, two more questions. 好嘛 ？2016, a decrease in the cost of producing. 好啦，嗱記唔記得啊 ？Decrease in cost of producing, it means that supply would increase. 好啦，即係咩意思啊 ？This is a change in supply. Therefore, we have no idea about yes， 即刻唔知道 yes 啦，好嘛 ？Result in a 5% change and 10% change in price and Q. You see, right？ 係嘛 ？Q change by 10%, price change by 5%. Now quantity is changing faster. What do we call this? We call this elastic demand. 係嘛？我哋知道呢個啦，elastic demand. So which line would best explain the above change? Let's see. Okay. Now here is a durable goods. 唔解啦呢個，好嘛？ If you remember durable goods, no close substitute. If we do not have close substitute, then it means that ED should drop, right? Not the answer we want. Have excess capacity. 呢個 ES 嚟嘅。係嘛？are not easily available. Also something to do with ES. Okay. Now later on in the last video, you will understand what is going on. 好嘛？好啦，嗱 finally, let's see how we answer long questions. Here, it says, other things being constant. 即係咩意思啊？ Here, other things being constant, D and S doesn't change. 點解啊？ Do you remember if demand shifted, if the supply has shifted? 咁就大鑊啦，成條 curve 走咗咧 then we have no conclusion about demand and supply, right? So here, other things being constant means that demand doesn't shift and supply also doesn't shift. Okay, very important assumption. 好嘛 the rise in tobacco duty rates would not effectively reduce. 佢話啦，唔會有效 reduce the quantity consumed. Justify his statement without using a diagram. OK， 好啦，即係話啲咩？點解加咗價係嘛 ？Tobacco duty. Now, first of all, we need to answer, right? The tobacco duty would result in an increase in price. 好啦 normally by the law of demand, what will happen, right? We know that QD should drop, right? 好啦 we have a very big problem. Tobacco, why not effective? 點解個 tobacco duty not effective 啊？ This cannot drop by a lot. Why? Because there may be addiction. 係嘛 Smokers may be addicted to cigarettes already. It means that the elasticity of demand is very inelastic demand. 好啦，跟住之後啦 we need to translate this into economics language. 係嘛？咩叫 inelastic demand 啊？ It means that the percentage decrease in quantity demanded will be much smaller than the percentage increase in price. This means it is not effective. 所以咪 ineffective 咯，係咪？所以咪 ineffective 咯。Okay? 得唔得？ So this is how we explain. Remember, the keyword is percentage change. Percentage change 好緊要啊，漏咗 percentage 即刻冇分㗎啦。好嘛？ So this will be the type of elasticity and some exercise on the definition and types of elasticity. For the next video, we're going to talk about elasticity of demand and the expenditure, so-called total expenditure, the relationship. Okay, 好嘛 So I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.